Welcome to an episode of GlideChat. My name is Mike Lombardo. With me is Bob Lynch, CEO of Sponsor United. Bob, how are you?
I'm good. I'm great. Nice to do in real life stuff here.
How was the ride up?
There's a lot more traffic than I
Really?
expected. Yeah.
Man, traffic is just
Another thing I don't do very often.
No,
Drive long distances anywhere. I never leave my property.
The cave.
Yeah, that's like I got a dog collar. I can't leave it.
So, Bob, thanks for joining. I had the honor and pleasure of being one of the investors in your company for like Series B or Series A or
Series A.
Series A.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. And so, why don't you tell us a little bit, what is Sponsor United?
It's a data platform that essentially tracks and maps all the sponsorship deals in sports and entertainment. So endorsement deals with Lady Gaga to what the Boston Celtics do, who they work with,
Yeah.
the marketing assets they buy, who the key decision makers are. It's kind of like a Google Maps for all of the deals. We take all that information and then license it to anybody buying, selling, or collaborating in the sports and entertainment space.
It's unbelievable because you mentioned the Celtics, and we went to a Celtics game. That was pretty
Amazing.
awesome. Pretty awesome. But
You set a high bar though, because like, how are you gonna ever follow up?
can't
that?
top that. Can't top
Tough.
it. But it is funny because all I could think about was like us sitting together and just all the different advertisements, and they're all cataloged in your application, right, in your platform. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, when I started selling advertising in Boston, which was like Boston Celtics radio and
Yeah.
Red Sox radio and whatnot, they taught us to prospect, and so you would just listen to like news talk stations all day long, writing down every single ad. And I used to go to the Boston Public Library, and this is like really dating myself.
Yeah.
Look at the microfiche of the newspapers from like the year before.
Oh yeah.
And literally write down all the advertisements
Wow.
back when newspaper was
Oh my
big.
God.
So I kind of grew up in that world doing
Wow.
that. And then when I started working for professional sports teams, you can't go on the Boston Globe to see all the ads. You have to be in a stadium, and you start looking around and paying attention. And you realize like there are so many different brands that were tied to deals.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you think about it, like when you're explaining it to me, you really don't think about it unless you're in that world. But like, what is even possible for advertisements, right? Like you help companies or other leagues and teams basically like identify even sponsorship, like real estate, right? Like, different sponsorship, even opportunities, not just brands, like who's buying advertising spots, but also where and how they're doing those advertisements, right? Like different, different initiatives, right?
Yeah. And
Campaigns.
in the media space, it's pretty binary. It's like 30, 60-second spots, billboard ad, mention and things like that. And, it was something that I struggled with when I went down to work for the Miami Dolphins. I was like, well, what can you sell? And they're like, knock a wall down and call it a club. Like, put a sign. Like it was totally abstract in what you could do. Community event, it was endless.
Yeah.
And it's both good and bad because you can get extremely creative with working with a brand. But it also can be really intimidating if you don't understand what can be bought and sold.
Yeah.
And so that became a big barrier of entry for a lot of brands to be like, what does this mean? Like, what can we do? And so the idea was that, well, if we kind of track everything in every different place and share this information with everybody, because our idea was like democratize access. Everybody should know about what's going on. Yeah. That it just saves a lot of time in understanding like, hey, what is available? What can be done? What trends are happening in this space? How is this industry shifting?
Is there ever any like blowback or brands get upset for you like capturing this information and cataloging it, or?
No, not really. I won't say the company, not on the brand side, selling sponsorships. And they're a client of ours now, but not at the time. I met with a pretty senior person and showed them like what we had on them, and they're pretty big organization. And the guy almost like said like, "Are you using hackers to get this information?" Wow. He was almost like, "This is like, how did you get this?"
Yeah.
And so that was probably the biggest blowback I got was almost like
it's public information, right? I mean, it's publicly advertised things. You're just taking a picture of it,
and it's typically offline. You can't scrape it on the internet.
Nobody's ever thought. I can't believe no one's ever thought of this, and you're just like light years ahead of anybody, right? There's nothing else like this. I mean.
Not to this degree, no.
Wow.
And we were able to fortunately like scale fast to track more information and more different environments. And I think that's what attracted me most was that people thought it couldn't be done.
Yeah.
And I'm a big like
Peter
Thiel 0 to 1, really lean into things that people think can't be done, but you can.
Watch me. Yeah.
And the problems are just as hard to solve as the easy problems. And so I just spent a lot of time figuring out, like in theory, how could you get all this information? And, it was able to sort of figure out a way to get that initial traction in doing that.
That's awesome. So first of all, like when I heard about your company and I was like, oh my God, this is like, I love the idea and everything and just the platform. But what I really liked about you personally was I kind of looked at you as like almost like an alternate universe or parallel universe of me where, I grew up in the IT space. I grew up in the ServiceNow space. You grew up in the advertising space and the marketing space. And you saw a real gap in the whole industry. And your idea was to fill that. And that's kind of like what I was in my world, right? So I looked at you as a master of your craft, just like I'm a master of my craft. And that's like when starting a company, I feel like you have to have a great leader. You have to have the right market, and you have to have the right product, or you're not going to get anywhere. And, you definitely, you have all three of those. So that's why I was like, I was in. I remember meeting you the first time. I was like, I don't even need like that. I saw enough. Like I'm in. Just tell me how much. Where to sign.
I wish they were all that easy.
I know.
And I think, I remember talking to you about just our early sort of shared entrepreneurialism, early on, where I'd be selling sodas to my classmates in like 6th and 7th grade and magazine ads and things like that. And
it's funny.
I think the hardest thing for me in my early part of my career is I always knew I wanted to start something.
Yeah, me
but
too.
I didn't know what. And so it was like I was trying to find a problem.
Yeah.
And for me, at least, I had to have a bit of a career in these different places to actually identify the inefficiencies. And I wouldn't have been able to do it if I didn't sort of, I didn't start my company until I was 37.
Wow.
Maybe. So
did you start any other companies before that?
Not while I was a professional. No.
Yeah. I mean,
I didn't have the guts. I mean, to walk away and just, it's a bit of golden handcuffs. I love the line, there's two great addictions in life, alcohol and a steady paycheck. So, it's kind of true. And, the older you get, and then I had kids, that inertia becomes harder to make that leap and just say, hey, I'm going to go for it.
I know. Because, I mean, I started these other things, but they were never like, they never made any money. They weren't like and it's not like I had to quit a job to do it. I always like had a full-time job or several. And I was always trying other things on the side. To your point, like I always wanted a business. I always wanted to be a leader. I always wanted to help others and, help others earn. But I just never knew what it was. And I just didn't, how do you plan? You can't plan for, hey, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to end up, creating this platform that catalogs all these advertising. You can't.
There's no roadmap. You don't know what it's going to be.
Can't. Yeah, but you have to have your antennas open for it.
I did try, actually, now that I think about it, I did try to start like 3 companies.
Really? Okay.
But not like burn the boats.
Yeah. What was one of them?
One of them, it's so funny. When you're like young, you don't even know how to start a company.
No, I know. Trust me.
One of them was a video company that would go to trade shows.
Okay.
And essentially film all the booths.
Yeah.
And then be able to put it online so people who couldn't go to the trade shows would like just go online. It was like kind of
that
virtually
now.
seeing an event.
Yeah, they do that now with like the AR AR stuff. Which
yeah, and in some ways, it's kind of similar to what we do. Where we're at CES and we have tracked every single booth and
That's
activation.
crazy. Yeah,
I don't think I did it in the way I was thinking about it now.
Yeah.
Back then, but
still,
that was one. There was something around advertising back in my New York media days where I didn't know what it was, what the vision was. And I think I didn't have a clear understanding of the problem I was trying to solve either.
Yeah.
I think that was the biggest issue.
To your point about the problem, what's the biggest problem that Sponsor United solves?
Well, the one that was immediately obvious to me was, and again, I came from media and went into sponsorship after half my career, was that there was just no information accessible on what these brands were doing and what these deals looked like. And so both sides, the buyers and the sellers, only had a limited access to data and information, either through their networks. I'm going to call a guy at another team and how does this deal work?
How much did you pay for it?
Or if I'm an NFL team, maybe I talk to the league and they have some data.
Wow.
And then the brands, maybe from their agency or maybe from their experience in negotiating other deals. And so, but it was really limited. And I just thought that's like the rest of the advertising world was just, there was reams of data and information that, through Google and Facebook, et cetera, that was making advertising much more, data driven. And in this space, it was growing, but with actually less and less information because these deals were getting more complex. It's not like in the 1970s, the brand bought a cigarette brand would buy a sign
billboard,
and maybe an ad in the print guide. Now these deals are very, there's so many moving parts to them.
Yeah.
And so it was actually getting that much harder to understand it. And so that was the biggest immediate problem that I was trying to solve. Is everybody wants access to more information that's not being skewed by an agency or somebody positioning it. It's hey, we're just the data. You do with it what you like.
Yep. No, that's amazing. And I think about my business and knowledge is power. We pay for, systems that have contact information. I mean, but if we could pay for, actual numbers that customers are paying for other ServiceNow vendors or other, even ServiceNow, if they knew exactly how much customers were spending it with Salesforce or with Workday or other SaaS platforms, I mean, they'd pay whatever for it, right? So, I mean, data is gold, and and it's just crazy that there's just nothing else out there. And like I said, I think you're just light years ahead of the competition. And you made the Inc. 5000 this past year. We did too. We're a little bit behind you.
Well, you've done.
This is our third year, though.
I think you've done okay.
Yeah, this was our third year. Yeah. But you were in the top 100, right?
Yeah, I believe we were 145.
145. Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, that's like hockey stick growth.
Yeah, I mean, it's fortunate to be in that position, and a lot of things have to go right. You have to be so lucky.
Yeah.
But going back to your point, I kind of looked at Bloomberg and the Bloomberg terminal as our inspiration. That
really?
30 years ago or whatever, Michael Bloomberg built those terminals is taking all this data and information and putting it in one place for people that can make financial buying decisions.
Yep, exactly.
And so to your point, it's hey, why can't we do that in this particular environment and provide that information? So, fortunately, you have to have the technology in place to do it.
Yeah.
We're a fully distributed remote company, so we needed Slack and Zoom to actually be around to operate a company because we physically have to be in all these different cities.
Yeah.
And, so there's a lot of luck and factors outside of your own control.
Create your own luck, though. You create your own luck.
I call it buying lotto tickets. You could literally win on the first one, or you could buy 1,000 and you just have bad luck. You never win. But obviously the work is the amount of lotto tickets you can buy.
Exactly.
That hopefully hit.
Let's talk about work. Tell me how hard you work. What does it take to be successful?
I think that, look, there's inertia whenever you start a company in general. So, you have to have an amazing work ethic, in my opinion. But I have a family too. I have 3 kids, and that can be really challenging.
Yeah.
And I want to be around for my kids and family as well. And so for me, the onus is on me on the discipline of work. It's not just like the number of hours. It's like, how do I plan my day?
Yeah.
And when I do, it's kind of like a workout program. If you're an
Yeah.
elite athlete, it's
Yeah.
like when I am in there,
like myself.
exactly.
Yeah.
You're my inspiration for that. But you've got to be so disciplined in how you plan your day and your time and work.
I put up 285 the other day. I'm pretty excited about that.
I don't think I could do that
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah, you could.
I broke an elbow a year ago.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, yeah.
Jogging to my remote office, by the way.
Yeah. No way.
Yeah. My long story short, my father put a tent up in my backyard, and he spiked it with the whatever the things that keep it in line, and I'm jogging to my office from my house to my barn.
Tripped over it?
And I literally ran over it on the asphalt, head over heels, landed, broke my elbow. I never broke a bone playing football in college or anything, and then I broke my elbow.
Wow.
So it's dangerous working remotely sometimes.
It is. I just told you should get an office. I told you got to get the office. You got to get the HQ.
I know.
HQ.
I know.
So, yeah, because a lot of people, tell me, like, sometimes I post on LinkedIn. I post on LinkedIn a lot, in case you didn't know. But I post a lot about like working hard and, being committed and everything. And people always, there's always like one or two people. It's like, you got to work smart, not hard. And I think that's kind of what maybe they're trying to say is like,
you got to do both.
It's both.
Yeah.
It's both. I'm not saying, listen, run around like a dog chasing your tail for doing nothing, but it takes effort. It's not going to come to you. Like it's not, to your point about the lotto tickets. It's not like you're not just buying the ticket. Like you're creating your own luck. Like you're putting yourself in the position to be successful. And yes, timing has to be right. A lot of these other factors have to come in. You have to surround yourself with the right people and hard workers as well. But
I think, Mike, that, and you've probably like hustled and worked hard your whole life. And so it's kind of like being an athlete in that, when you're around real elite athletes that are in shape, like their warm up is your workout.
Yeah, exactly.
And so if you instill a work ethic, what's hard work to others, like they don't realize like what real hard work is sometimes, unless you've really done it for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
But to the point of like making the company successful, like take all those other factors out. Yeah, you have to work incredibly hard. I mean, I can't even count the number of times I've just literally worked through the night to the next day, or fallen asleep with the computer literally in my lap. I mean, endless days, years of doing that stuff. I bring a laptop with me if I'm with my kids.
I know.
And if one of them falls asleep in the car while my wife goes in shopping with like two others, got to pull that laptop out because I'm like, I'm not taking my time away from them, but I'm going to knock out some work.
You
you have to have those hacks and do everything you can.
And your team needs you. You know what I mean? Like that's what like keeps me going, and I think always had. Like I've always been the person that I'll work harder if somebody's counting on me than just me. It's like to the point about working out. Like when my trainer's there, I'm working harder, because like I don't know why. It's weird. I'm like he's relying on me to do, but if he's not there, am I going to do those extra sets? Probably not,
Absolutely.
So like, having a team relying on you and knowing that they're working hard for you motivates me to do more, and almost like it makes like, I have to put this work in. I have to help others be successful. And in turn, it's good for all of us.
There's a 4-part series, I think, or a 3-part series on Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh
on
my
Netflix.
God. I loved it.
And what was really interesting is you actually saw it from his days in Austria to Muscle Beach or whatever they call it, where he would surround himself with the other bodybuilders, basically creating this community of people that would like challenge and push each other, but also learn from each other.
Yeah.
If you want to be elite, like you're not going to know the perfect system with all these things. And so there's other people that you might learn from to be better at working or pushing yourself harder versus doing it like in a silo.
Steel sharpens steel, right? Is that what they're saying?
I love accountability.
Accountability too. And I love that that series, by the way. So what kind of advice would you give others out there, obviously not everyone's going to start a company, not everyone, but just like career wise in general, you have an interesting, story because you were like really committed to sports in the beginning. And I think that you used a lot of that drive to drive your career and stuff. But like, what advice would you give people in their career trying to get to the next level?
Well, I mean, I was committed to sports when I played sports. When I got out of college, though, I didn't even know sports was a career.
Really?
No, I had no idea you could, like, I started in sports media, but I had no idea that was even a thing.
Yeah.
I had no idea you could even work for a team. So it wasn't on my mind at the time. And I actually think that was good because I think the best thing you can do is just be naturally curious, like learn. Like I'm a big believer in when I got out of school and I didn't have any experience coming out of college. Like my resume, I'd put it up against anybody's. It's like the weakest resume you can ever meet. 2.0 GPA.
Yeah, well,
right on 2.0. I almost had to work hard.
Beat there.
Oh, well, okay.
I didn't graduate, so.
But if you created a resume, though, you probably have a lot more work experience
Okay.
than I had. I worked at a cemetery cutting grass for 7 years.
Okay, yep, maybe.
And I bounced at a bar,
there.
so that was my work experience.
Okay.
But I kind of looked at that as an opportunity to just learn and immerse myself in all these like really advertising, because even my first job was selling news talk advertising.
Yeah.
And so learning from that was actually learning about like cost per points and ratings and what AM and FM mean and like radio frequencies and things like that. So I just kind of learned about all those things. And it's not that I wanted to make a career in it, but I found it really fascinating. And so I think just in general, like, if you want to be interesting, be interested in things.
Yeah.
And then keep up to date on what's going on in the world. Like just go into a totally different area or meet people that you can learn from that are in different environments.
Yeah.
Cause you never know like what idea could get sparked from there.
And are you saying like almost like underestimation kind of? Are you saying like because you didn't have that amazing resume, you were just like kind of like, oh, I'm just, I'm here to learn. Like I'm here to learn.
No, I kind of looked at it and said, all right, I don't know anything about business. Now this is where the athlete side was helpful for me, because I said, well, I'm just going to go all in on like learning all these things.
Okay.
And my mentality was, people spend 18 years going to school and they keep moving up. And then when they graduate, like it starts to flatten out their learning. They don't have to, take 8 subjects a year anymore.
Yeah.
And my thinking was, while they're all slowing down, I'm going to start accelerating my learning and just really dive in. And almost like from a competitive standpoint, I am going to keep learning and reading. And the more I read, the more it led to other things. It's kind of like going down a rabbit hole. And to this day, like, I try to read like a book a week, and I'm always like wanting to learn from other people. So I guess it's humble in that, especially once you read a little bit, you don't know everything.
Yeah.
There's a bigger world out there with some like really smart people.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to always be thinking like there's always somebody that knows something else. There's always something to learn, and really seek that out. And so that's what I tried to do. And I think to this day, that's helpful to me. I mean, even in my ride up here today, I was talking to somebody I never met before, and he threw one thing out that, and I didn't expect it coming out of the call. And it led to a whole cascade of like other calls I made on this one thing that, will go down, and it could turn out to be great. It could turn out to be nothing, but I learned something new from that. So.
That's the best. Yeah. It's funny because I'm thinking about like myself, right. And like my story, it's like, I think I just I was fortunate that I got the head start that I got because, while all my other friends were in college, going down the 4 years of college route, I didn't really have anything else. I was working, I started working full time at like 16, or 17 when I dropped out of high school. And then I was fortunate I got into a tech program that gave me an internship at 19 in the corporate world. So the people I was working with were in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, like entry-level job, answering phones, help desk, technical support. But by the time my friends graduated from college, I was on my second, professional job and, still borderline entry level, but I had like experience, and I was able to, at 22, 23, get to that next job that next level in my career. And I think that was a fortunate thing for me. But
so by the way,
yeah.
I think like two opposite things can be correct, even though they're against
oh
each other.
no, it's just different.
What I mean
okay.
is,
all right.
so you did that and
Yeah.
you got that momentum
Yeah.
early on. I stayed back my freshman year of high school and transferred to another high school so that I could get a scholarship for college football. My dad was a coach, like definitely hacked the system. I was a 19-year-old senior.
Yeah.
Then I was the only freshman that could drive himself to high school. It was great.
Dude, that's awesome.
And then I had the 5 years because I had a redshirt year in college for football. And then, so I was 24 when I graduated.
Wow.
Again, I had no work experience at 24.
Yeah.
My first job, I was 25 years old.
Wow.
And so I was like the opposite. I'm like a late bloomer
so funny.
with no experience.
Yeah.
And so I think, you can benefit from both ways.
Oh,
of
you
like starting
definitely
early
can.
and sometimes coming in late. And it is like athletes. Sometimes people start early and they're amazing. And then sometimes people hit their stride later on in their careers.
It's crazy. And it's crazy how, but that probably wouldn't have worked for me, and my way probably wouldn't have worked for you.
Yeah.
It's just, this is a great point for our audience. You have to do what's right for you. People will look at others and say, oh, wow, that's what that person did. That's what I should do. You have to do what's right for you. You have to be who you are,
100%.
You have, and that's what, I try to teach my kids. I try to, anytime I'm mentoring, listen, even when I'm mentoring somebody, right? I say, listen to my advice, but you have to believe in yourself. You have, don't just shut me out. Don't just shut people out, but you have to do what you believe in how you feel, because at the end of the day, you have to live with those decisions, and you have, we don't have to live in that person's world. So
I know. And having 3 kids and seeing they live in the same household, they have the same parents, and yet they're wired differently.
Oh, isn't it crazy?
We all have our different paths. And I think, the problem today is that people are so pressured on you have to go down this one path. And then they're like, I was talking to a young person last week, and they're so nervous coming out of school. Yeah. And, they're 20 years old graduating. And I'm like, you don't,
such an idiot.
don't worry. And I know it's so hard. I'm like, I've been 20, you haven't been 45. So I have the advantage of knowing what you're going through. Yeah. But that's tough. But everybody has their own path. And, it should be unique and different.
Exactly. That's what makes life interesting, right? Yeah. And special. So let's get back to a little bit of Sponsor United. And we're getting a podcast in today. This might be a long one. So I know we were talking about some of the features coming out. I know we can't release, all of them, but what's something you're really excited about the future of Sponsor United? What's maybe a game-changing addition that you're adding? What's something that you're really excited about?
Yeah, I think that big picture, as we continue to layer in more and more information, more context around everything that's happening with these deals and partnerships, taking all that information and making it really easy for people to get and sort of understand that information. So the whole user experience where, how do you ultimately make it like you're talking to another person that's helping you with the deals? Yeah. And so that, we have some real aspirational ways we want to make the experience for everybody in the industry. Yeah. And we want to keep pulling in more other information, essentially, that supplies them with everything they need to really create successful partnerships.
That's amazing.
I know that's very broad and vague.
No, but that's, I like that, because that's what I think everybody's starting to see, the AI stuff pop up, and it's okay, they want it. I think a lot of people want to integrate it in all their lives, work, home, everything. It's starting to seem like it's getting there, We
definitely want to make people's lives easier. Yeah. So that people who are, marketers, salespeople, etc., they can take their time and focus on higher level things. Yeah, tasks. Versus manual research and trying to sort of pull information together. They can be armed with the right information at the right time so that they can then take that and do what they do best. Yep.
First of all, Bob, thanks for coming to the podcast. But I also want to ask you 2 questions.
Okay.
1, what do you think of the Celtics this year? And 2, what do you think of the Patriots this year? Please, I need your expert opinion.
What I want of the Celtics is
It's different than what you
world
think.
championship as a
Please
forgot we
please?
share that same like love of
Oh
love
God,
of the Celtics growing up.
this has got to be the year. It's
Um,
got to be.
I'm hoping that after sort of last year, sort
was
of new
brutal.
coaching and everything, that there's some like settling and that
Yeah.
that they'll hit their stride. I don't know.
I think Missoula's still in. He's good.
I don't know.
don't
I'm
know.
done. I'm done guessing
Guessing,
on
yeah,
things
I
in this
know.
space.
I
Wait,
know.
what was the second question? I forgot.
And then Patriots.
Oh, if Mac Jones can sync up with the coaching staff,
Yeah.
I
You don't think Zappy?
I don't know.
You know, I sat next to him.
So you live in Massachusetts,
Yeah.
so like
You're
having
in Connecticut. That's just
no,
yeah. What,
it's
your
Connecticut,
Giants win?
Switzerland. Like the news stops.
Yeah,
once
yeah.
you get
Yes,
to, like,
it is
Fairfield
Switzerland.
County,
That's a
Connecticut.
good. That is good. It is a good.
The Patriots news doesn't. I think
That
the
doesn't make it
airwaves are
so-
blocked or something.
Do you know we sat next to Zappy at the Celtics game? And we had no idea it was him.
Oh, really?
He's like right next to him, like making jokes with him and everything. And like so towards the end of the game, someone's like, "Zappy, when are you gonna start?" And we're like, "Wait, you're Zappy?" He's like, "No, I'm not," and just like left.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
we had like a great time. He's young. He's really young. He's young. He
Oh,
looks,
really?
Yeah.
Oh god.
I don't know. Do you know how old he is? He
I
looks
have no
like
idea.
22. Like he looks like in his.
See, now that I'm older, everybody looks young
Yeah,
to
that's
me,
true.
so.
I know. But it's weird when it's like professional athletes. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know.
Because like they're
See,
so
Tom-
much bigger than you too.
Well, with Tom Brady retiring, because he's like a month or two younger than me. So
Yeah.
once he retired from the NFL, there was nobody. Like I could always
So
say, like,
does it.
"Hey, listen, guys my age are still playing." So this is a very sad year for me.
That's it.
It's finally ended.
Oh,
I guess there's no
it's
chance for
over.
me.
Hang it up. Hang up the jersey.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Bob. Thanks for joining me on episode of Glide Chat. Make sure you guys like and subscribe.